Raven's Hollow stood silent under heavy snow, its tall stone towers rising from the white land, like watchful guards that never slept. Winter had taken full control of the countryside, covering roads, fields, and forests in thick ice and silence. Inside those walls lived the Duke of Raven's Hollow, a man spoken of in drawing rooms with equal parts admiration and caution. At just 20 years old, he was known for his striking looks, flawless manners, and an emotional distance no one had ever crossed. Society admired him, yet few truly knew him. His heart, people said, had been locked away long before it had learned how to open. He ruled his home with calm order and polite distance. Nothing warm was allowed unless duty required it. Nothing personal was invited unless it was necessary. Raven's Hollow had become a place of silence, built as much from stone as from restraint. It was into this cold world that Lady Seraphina Ashcombe arrived one winter evening. Her carriage struggled against the frozen road, wheels groaning as snow fell harder around her. She was 23, graceful and striking, though beauty had never protected her from loss. She had been born into comfort, raised with manners and expectation, only to watch it all fall apart after her father's ruin. What remained was her dignity, carefully preserved, sharpened by necessity rather than pride. When she stepped into the great hall of Raven's Hollow, servants paused to watch her. They noticed the simplicity of her gown, the lack of jewels, the quiet control in her movements. To them, her calm felt suspicious. England had taught them to mistrust women who endured without complaint. The Duke received her beneath chandeliers dimmed by winter smoke. He stood tall, his face unreadable as he studied her approach. He noticed everything: her steady walk, her straight posture, the way she neither tried to impress nor shrink from his presence. He had already been warned of her arrival by distant relatives who spoke of her as a problem disguised as hope. He had decided this visit would be short, proper, and forgettable. Tea was served, polite words were exchanged, dinner followed in the same measured manner. Every sentence was controlled, every glance restrained. Seraphina answered his questions clearly, without false humility or flirtation. She did not decorate her replies or soften them for approval. This unsettled him more than praise ever could. He had expected strategy, charm, and quiet ambition. Instead, he found a woman more concerned with self-respect than his favor. That refusal to perform irritated him. To the Duke, not trying was simply another form of manipulation. When the evening grew late and the servants withdrew, he rose with careful timing. He stepped closer to her beneath the tall shadows of the hall and lowered his voice. "Leave at dawn," he whispered. "I'm not interested in you." He told himself it was not cruelty, only efficiency. Better to end the matter before gossip could begin. The words struck Seraphina like ice against bare skin. Still, she did not flinch. Years of quiet endurance had taught her how to stand steady when humiliated. She inclined her head politely, neither pleading nor protesting, even as shame burned beneath her calm expression. In that moment, she understood exactly how he saw her, not as a woman with history and will, but as an inconvenience to be removed. Outside, the snow thickened against the windows. Servants whispered already, shaping stories of her failure. She was shown to her chamber with careful courtesy, the kind reserved for those who would soon be gone. Alone, Seraphina removed her gloves slowly. She accepted the truth with painful clarity. Raven's Hollow would never truly know her. Yet propriety intervened where sentiment did not. The storm worsened overnight. Roads vanished beneath snow. By morning, departure was impossible. Custom demanded that an unwanted guest remain until safe travel returned. Morning arrived without mercy. Snow lay heavier than before, the sky pale and unforgiving. At breakfast, the Duke was informed the roads could not be crossed. He masked irritation with indifference and agreed that Lady Seraphina must remain until evening. She joined the table later that morning, her composure unchanged. She did not avoid him nor seek his attention. Her restraint unsettled him more than anger would have. She behaved as though his judgment was only one opinion, not a sentence upon her worth. Throughout the day, the house filled with quiet curiosity. Servants lingered. Whispers grew. Serafina understood the danger of staying too long. Instead of hiding, she asked to assist with the evening meal. The request surprised the housekeeper, unused to ladies of rank offering such help, yet she agreed. In the kitchen, warmth replaced grandeur. Serafina moved with calm confidence among pots and fire. She chose food suited to winter scarcity, cooking with care rather than display. She spoke little, letting her actions speak. Servants watched as curiosity softened into respect. That evening, the Duke entered the dining room expecting nothing more than formality. The scent of the meal caught him off guard. It felt familiar, honest, unlike the polished excess he knew so well. He tasted it without expectation, then froze. The flavor was simple, warming, deeply human. He looked at Serafina and truly saw her for the first time. She did not wait for praise. She did not claim credit. She only met his gaze calmly. Something shifted within him. Raven's Hollow, long accustomed to emotional silence, seemed to hold its breath. The storm tightened its grip outside, sealing the estate in snow and firelight. The Duke returned to his solitude that night, unsettled. Knowing indifference no longer came easily. And neither of them slept. The house waited. The storm did not loosen its hold on Raven's Hollow. Snow pressed against the windows day after day, sealing the estate from the world beyond. What had first felt like an inconvenience slowly became something else, a suspended time where habits shifted and walls listened. Lady Serafina moved through the house with careful purpose. She never assumed welcome, yet she no longer behaved like a guest already dismissed. She read in the mornings near the tall windows, helped the housekeeper when asked, and spoke to the servants with quiet respect. There was no performance in her manner. She did not try to win affection. She simply existed with dignity, and that unsettled everyone who watched her. The Duke observed her at a distance at first. He told himself it was curiosity, nothing more. Yet he found his routine disturbed. Meals lasted longer. Silence felt heavier. He noticed the way Serafina listened when others spoke, how she never interrupted, yet never faded. Her presence did not demand attention, but it changed the shape of the room. Their conversations began cautiously. Brief remarks about the weather, the estate, the condition of the roads, safe topics chosen by habit. Yet even these exchanges felt different. The Duke was used to people speaking to him with care, shaping words to please or impress. Serafina spoke plainly. When she agreed, it was genuine. When she differed, it was quiet but firm. As evenings lengthened, winter forced proximity. Fires were lit earlier. Candles burned longer. One night, as snow struck the windows with renewed force, they sat near the hearth at a proper distance. The fire softened the Duke's sharp features, revealing how young he truly was beneath discipline and expectation. Serafina noticed it then. Not with pity, but with understanding. She saw a man who had mistaken distance for safety, solitude for strength. Without planning to, her voice gentled as she spoke of her childhood before loss, of laughter that still lived quietly within memory. She did not dramatize ruin or complain of injustice. She spoke as someone who had endured and chosen not to harden. The Duke listened without interruption. Each word unsettled him. He had built his life on control, believing affection to be a weakness easily exploited. That belief had shaped every decision he made. Hearing Serafina speak, he realized how carefully he had hidden himself even from his own reflection. When he spoke, it surprised them both. He admitted his fear of expectation, of a life decided long before he could question it. He spoke of how affection felt dangerous, a vulnerability that invited loss. His honesty was restrained, but real. Serafina did not challenge him. She only observed that isolation also demanded a price, though society praised it more generously in men like him. Her words were calm, but they landed with precision. Something settled between them after that night. It was not romance in the careless sense, it was recognition. Days passed. Their conversations grew longer. Silences became comfortable rather than strained. They spoke of books, of travels imagined but never taken, of the quiet rules society imposed differently on men and women. Serafina never positioned herself as victim. She spoke as an equal, and the Duke found himself adjusting to that without resistance. Yet beneath the growing understanding lay danger. Raven's Hollow did not exist beyond scrutiny. Servants noticed everything. A young woman staying too long beneath a duke's roof invited rumor. Serafina understood this better than anyone. One evening she spoke of departure, not with accusation but necessity. She explained that dignity required boundaries, and that remaining longer risked more than comfort. The Duke felt the weight of her words immediately. He did not urge her to stay, but he did not accept the thought easily either. He asked why she wished to leave so quickly, and in doing so revealed his reluctance. Serafina met his gaze steadily. She said she would not become the subject of speculation or pity. Whatever understanding had grown between them deserved honesty, not convenience. Her resolve stirred something within him that pride could not silence. Before the conversation could deepen, a servant entered with quiet formality, reminding them of the world beyond firelight and walls. The moment broke, but its meaning remained. That night, sleep eluded them both. Serafina lay awake, determined not to allow sentiment to compromise her self-respect. The Duke paced his chamber, confronted by the realization that distance had not protected him after all. Snow continued to fall, deepening the silence around Raven's Hollow, and morning waited. Morning came softly to Raven's Hollow, as if the world itself hesitated to disturb what had been quietly forming within its walls. The storm had finally loosened its grip. Snow still lay heavy across the land, but the sky showed pale breaks of light, promising passage by afternoon. Servants moved with careful steps, their voices low, aware that something delicate hung in the air. Preparations for Lady Serafina's departure began without announcement. Trunks were brought down. Cloaks were aired near the fire. Horses were readied in the yard. She accepted it all with calm resolve, offering polite thanks and steady smiles, though beneath her composure lived a sorrow she refused to display. When she descended the stairs for the final time, the Duke stood waiting in the great hall. He was formal as ever, posture straight, expression controlled. Yet his stillness betrayed unrest. They spoke first of roads and weather, of duty and propriety, as though words alone could protect them from what pressed between each pause. Silence grew heavier than speech. At last the Duke broke it. His voice remained measured, but urgency ran beneath it. He confessed that dismissing her had been easy, but parting now was not. He admitted that her presence had unsettled him in ways he had not anticipated, and that indifference no longer came when summoned. Serafina listened without triumph. When she spoke, her words were clear and firm. She said she would not remain where she was merely tolerated. Affection, she insisted, must be chosen freely, or it became another kind of confinement. She had lived too long preserving dignity to surrender it now for comfort. Outside, her carriage waited. Steam rose from the horses like breath held too long. Snow crunched beneath boots as the Duke followed her into the cold. Servants turned away with practiced discretion, though no one truly missed the moment. He stopped beside the carriage and asked her to stay, not as a guest, not as obligation, but as an equal. He admitted he was willing to risk rumor, judgment, and consequence rather than lose her respect. The request cost him visibly. Pride bent beneath sincerity, and in that bending something truer emerged. Serafina hesitated. She weighed honor against hope, certainty against courage. Her gaze remained steady as she told him she would not trade dignity for security. If he wished her beside him, it must be openly, before the same society that had judged her so readily. No shadows, no half-measures. The Duke considered this, feeling the weight of lineage and expectation settle upon him. Then he spoke with a clarity that surprised them both. He declared his intention to marry her. Not from convenience, not from pressure, but from devotion, chosen freely and publicly. The cold air shifted. The moment felt irrevocable. Serafina searched his face for doubt and found none, only resolve shaped by struggle. She accepted with quiet certainty, recognizing courage when she saw it. The carriage was dismissed. Whispers turned to stunned silence. Raven's Hollow reorganized itself around a truth no one had expected. Their marriage followed swiftly, restrained yet resolute. There was no spectacle, only purpose. Winter skies softened as vows were exchanged, and the estate learned warmth through shared intent rather than ornament. Where distance had once ruled, presence took its place. The Duke learned that love demanded visibility, a willingness to be known and judged. Serafina learned that trust required risk. Together they faced the future without illusion, choosing it deliberately, rather than hiding from it. In years to come, visitors would remark upon the warmth of Raven's Hollow, unable to name its source. It lay not in fires or tapestries, but in the quiet accord between two souls who had met rejection and answered with integrity. Snow would return in later winters. Storms would press close. Yet the house remembered that season when dignity triumphed and courage altered the course of two lives. Quietly, irrevocably. And within those walls, love endured.